Hello everyone. So today we're going to see how to make a circuit on a breadboard. Okay. So first we're going to start with a little schematic. So we're going to start with a voltage source. Okay. Could be 5 volt, could be 9 volts here. I'm going to use 5 volts. Okay. And then very simply, we're going to have a little push button right here. Little symbol for push button. We're going to have a resistor, and we're going to have a little LED. This is the symbol for an LED. We're going to make that little circuit right here. Okay, so again, this is the power source, the battery. We're going to use a 5-volt power source. This is a push button. This is a resistor. This is an LED. With 5 volt, the resistance that we have right here should be within the range of, let's say, between 150 ohms approximately and 470 ohms. Okay, so we'll see what we are going to use. So all those components right here, what do they really look like? Well, a resistor looks like this. Okay. And you see there are little bands of colors on it that tells you the value of that resistance. An LED is like this. An LED will have 2 legs. Okay. And one of them is the anode, the other one is the cathode. The anode is positive, the cathode is negative, and the anode is slightly longer than the cathode, so it helps to figure out which is which when you do that. For the power supply, we're going to have several options. We could use a battery on a little power supply like this. This is called the breadboard companion. I have my students build them as a little soldering exercise. They are fully functional power supplies. They even give you an adjustable clock signal. Right now, I'm turning my potentiometer, and you see that the LED blinks at different rates. Okay, so I use a 9-volt battery, and I can get either 5 volt or 9 volt out of this side right here. If I don't have one of those, it's fine. I can just use one of those clips right here, put the 9-volt battery directly in it, and it will give me 9 volt instead of 5 volts right there. Okay. We need some wires in order to build this entire thing. So I got those wires from one of my Arduino kits. And ultimately, we're going to decide to verify that the theory we've studied matches reality. So we will need to measure voltage, current, and resistance. And in order to do that, we're going to need a multimeter. So I have my Fluke right here, but you can use whatever multimeter you have. Okay. Oh yes, we also need a little push button, which is going to be this little thing right here. Okay, from the top, from the side, right here. Mine has 4 little legs. I will show you how to use it. Okay, so we're going to make that schematics on a breadboard. So I have this breadboard right here, and the way it works is as follows. Along this blue line right here, underneath this blue line, you have one long piece of metal, meaning that all those dots right here are connected to one another. Same thing for all those dots next to the red line. There is a big long strip of metal right here that will connect all of them. And then you would just take a wire, put it in it, and it will hold it in place. Same thing for this strip right here, this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one. Okay, so all of those are connected along those lines. Now, in the middle right here, we have groups of 5. The groups of 5 are connected like this, horizontally. Okay, you have tiny strips of metal underneath each one of them that will connect them together. Okay, that means those 5 are connected to each other. Those 5 are connected to each other, but those 5 are not connected to those 5. There is a groove right here in the middle. Okay, so how do we proceed to make that little circuit that we had earlier? Well, I'm going to start by bringing my power supply and to connect it to the breadboard. So my power supply has little metal prongs in the back, and I can insert them directly into the breadboard. Okay, so over here I have a 5 volt. Right here I have a 0 volt, and I'm going to connect this one and this one for my circuit. But in order to do that, I'm going to line them up with the breadboard like this, which tells me essentially that right here I'm going to have 5 volts, and right here I'm going to have 0 volts, which means that if I bring this over here and this over here, all those holes right here next to the blue line will have a 0 volt potential, and all those holes right here next to the red will have a 5 volt potential. Okay. A good exercise would be at this point to take the multimeter and to check that this is indeed the case. Okay, so here is what we're going to do. This is my multimeter. We have different holes right here. The COM is always going to be the same. So I'm going to take my wire right here, connect it to the COM. And over here, I'm going to use A if I want to measure high currents, MA or mu A if I want to use milliamps or microamps or low currents. And here, I'm going to put it in here if I want to measure voltage, resistance. You see the V and the omega right here, or if I want to measure continuity. Since I want to measure voltage, I'm going to connect it here. Okay. What I want is continuous voltage. This will be alternative with a little wavy line on top. This will be continuous. So I'm going to go like this. And now that I have everything connected, I can see what I have right here. And I'm going to connect the red wire right here to the red clip on my multimeter, and the blue wire to the blue clip on my multimeter. And what do I see now? I see on my multimeter that I have 5 volts. Okay, so I know for a fact that now I'm going to have 5 volts right here. Now, some of you might be wondering, wait a second here. You put a 9 volt battery into your little power supply right here. This is a 9 volt battery right there. Why is it that you have 5 volt over here? Well, this little electronic component right here that you have is called a voltage regulator. It will take a range of voltages on the input and gives you 5 volt on the output. Okay, but we don't have to worry about that. So now, what do we do? Well, we have 5 volts right here. So I need different components for the circuit. I started with a push button. So I'm going to push a push button right here. Okay. After the push button, I had a little resistor. So the resistor that I needed was between 150 and 470. I'm going to use this resistor right here. But before I use it, I'm going to verify that it is in a correct range. Okay. So I'm going to take my resistor right here, going to connect my multimeter to it right here and right here, and I see that the resistance of my resistor right here is 325.3, so it's definitely within the correct range. Okay. Now, when you measure a resistance, make sure that the component, in this case the resistor, is not carrying any electricity. Okay. The multimeter itself is going to supply the voltage needed to do the reading. So we have our push button, we have our power supply, we have our resistor. Now we just need a little LED. So I'm going to use this little LED right here. Okay. So let's make the circuit. I'm connecting the resistor here to this side right here of the push button. So the electricity will go from this leg of the push button to the resistor to this place. This LED right here has two legs, a short leg and a long leg. I'm going to connect the long leg to the resistor right here. And I'm going to connect the short leg of this LED to the negative side of my battery, so the blue bus right here. As for the red bus, I'm going to connect it right here to the side of my push button over there. Okay, so let me zoom in so that you have a better view of the entire thing. So the red wire is the 5 volt from my power supply. It goes through that yellow wire to the push button. When I push a push button, the circuit is going to be closed, send electricity to this side of the push button that's connected to this resistor. The electricity will go through the resistor, then through the LED, to the other side of the LED, to this wire, and back to the negative terminal of the battery. Let's see if it works and push the push button. Whoa, it's bright. I let go, it's off. Okay, so this is how you breadboard things. If now I wanted to measure the voltage drop by the LED, let me zoom out so that we will have a chance to see the multimeter. We bring the multimeter like this, turn it on to measure voltage, and I will connect it to both sides of the LED as such. And we can see that right now we have 0.004 volts, essentially nothing. It's the internal working of the multimeter. And if I push a push button, the LED should be turning on. And it's not. Maybe I have a bad contact somewhere. Ah, it is on. And we see that the voltage drop by the LED is 2.89 volts. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. And remember that the connection between the components are made because those 5 little dots are connected to one another. Good luck.